Do you ever find yourself sat at work wondering what your life would look like if only you had enough money to not have to be there? Hi again. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you why it's so important to be investing and why you need to start investing right now if you haven't already, no matter what age you're at. I'm going to be explaining the order in which I would recommend that you invest and also why it's so important to diversify. So you might want to grab a pen or something to make notes on, and let's get into this. All right, so I'm going to make this nice and simple so every single person who watches this can understand. You might want to write this on a notepad and stick it on your fridge with a magnet, or write it on your bathroom mirror or something. The sooner you can live off passive income, the happier you will be. Living a happy, healthy, wealthy life is something that I talk a lot about on this channel. So you might also want to write this on your fridge as well, actually. If you're not creating passive income streams, you're contracting yourself to a life of servitude. You're always going to have to work whether you want to or not. All right, now that I've got that off my chest, I'd like to tell you the reason why it's so important, apart from the obvious reasons of who the hell wants to work full time when you're old or when you start a family. I mean, surely you would prefer to spend time with your kids or grandkids without having to still go to work for old man Marley. But even more important than that is your own health. Look, the longer you have to work in life, the more stress and anxiety you're going to have. The less you work as you get older, the less stress and anxiety you'll have. I really can't put it any simpler than that, and that is why the sooner you start investing, the sooner you will have the option of whether you go to work or not. It's the choices you make now that determine this, so ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to have in the future? It can be really difficult to digest this when you're in your 20s, especially your early 20s, because you feel like you've got your whole life ahead of you. And in some ways, you have got your whole life ahead of you, but your whole life is going to go by in the blink of an eye, and you'll wish that you made wise decisions while you were young that affected the life you're going to live in the future. And I'm going to give you a little example of this, because when I was 19, I had a head-on collision with a heroin addict who was driving straight at me in one of these beastly massive cars, these Volvos. I'll show you a picture of one right now. It might not look as big in the picture, but these things are monstrous. Now, obviously, I survived, I'm here, and actually, I only had quite minor injuries. I had a bit of whiplash and a slight shoulder injury, which healed over the next couple of years. My passenger also survived, he was okay, so thankfully, everybody was all right. Now, the insurance company still gave me a payout for this. I got $10,000, and a 19-year-old, even though I was quite frugal, even at that age, I still done something very stupid with it. I blew almost all of it on one of these, a sporty Vauxhall Calibra, which was worth next to nothing about 4 years later. Now, if I had invested that money into, say, like a down payment for my first house, then I would have actually lived off that money for the rest of my life. I would have had about $150 to $200 a week coming in for the rest of my life. Or I could have put that money into the S&P 500, and even without compound interest, it would still be worth 5 times more today. Now, luckily, when I did start earning some decent money, I did invest in my first property and multiple properties after that and other investments. But do you see my point here? We don't need all of that materialism garbage. It won't fulfill you, it's short-term happiness, whereas the money you save to invest will allow you freedom later on. That means that you can then focus your time on doing the things that do mean something to you and do fulfill you. Another benefit of having the freedom to choose when you get older, because you don't have to work so much, is that there'll be no pressure to work if you don't want to. At the minute, I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing some coaching, but one of the great things about the fact that I can live a free lifestyle now because of the investments that I made when I was younger is that if I choose not to, it's no big deal, or I can choose to charge whatever I want because I don't need the money. I'm not reliant on it. It's the same with YouTube. I can devote 10 hours to making a free 8-minute video for you guys, knowing that I'll earn very little in ad revenue because my time is not dependent on working a full or even a part-time job. Those early investments have removed all of the stress and the worry about trying to squeeze all of that in. I don't even think I could do 2 videos a week on YouTube while still working a full or even a part-time job. It's that time consuming, but I really enjoy it. It's not about the money for me. I really enjoy the process and the creative act of doing it. And that's something I would miss out on if I had to go and work a lot. And also it would be really hard to like have a social life, go to the gym, squeeze everything in. This is why it's so important to make these investments as early as possible. And another very, very important point is that when you do start to live off your passive income streams, then you can start to go to bed and get up when you want, so you get a good quality night's sleep, and there's almost nothing more important than that. I mean, seriously, your sleep is probably the most crucial thing you can do for your health and longevity. When I get a full night's perfect sleep, I feel amazing. Give yourself the gift of having this in the future by choosing to invest now. Okay, another thing to be wary of when you do start putting some money aside to invest is where you put it to invest. Because if you put all of that savings into one thing and that one thing doesn't work out, you're going to feel absolutely miserable. You'll have lost everything, and that is not a place you want to be mentally. In fact, that's almost worse than not investing at all. Now, some people might argue and say, well, you'll learn from that. You'll learn the mistakes that you made, and then in the future you'll make that money back, and it'll be a blessing in the long run. I don't buy into that. The toll that it will take on your mental health and your health in general, your physical health, is not worth it. I mean, this is the kind of thing that drives some people to suicide. So to avoid this, diversification is the key. That way, if one of your investments does collapse, you know you're going to be okay. It's still going to sting a bit. It's not going to be comfortable, but you're going to be fine. You're going to get through it, and it's not going to be such a big deal and not as painful as it would have been if you'd lost everything. Now, the order in which you invest is your responsibility. You have to do the work and be rational about where you're going to put that money and educate yourself about where you're going to put that money. Don't just go blindly into it and hope for the best. Personally, what I would recommend is if you only have a little bit to invest, then invest in yourself first. This way, you can hopefully learn the skills and the knowledge to earn more to invest later. And then once you are earning more, invest in your first property, either a property for you to live in while you're renting another part of the property out so that it pays for itself, or a property for you to completely rent out so you can bump up your savings allowance. And from there, the more that you start to earn from your investments, the more you can branch out into things like index funds, bonds are very safe, and eventually you can go on into the more high risk stuff like a new startup company. And if you're watching this right now and you're thinking, well, I earn a decent amount of money, but I can't really see me being able to put some money aside to start investing, or I'm too old to invest now, I'm just going to call bullshit on this right now. I don't want to hear about your excuses because I know that it's possible. Everybody has the capacity within themselves to put a bit of money aside every month that they can then save and invest. I've got tons of videos on this, how to live frugally. I highly recommend you check them out. I'll put links to them in the description, and hope you got something from this. If you did, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.